In John chapter 1, the author is trying to identify who Jesus is so that we can understand the nature of the encounter that God is making with the world. He's trying to answer lots of questions. And so if you look very carefully through the whole chapter 1, count how many titles of Jesus you can find in that chapter. Will you do that? I'll tell you what, I'll give you the answer. Here you go, this is what I look. Jesus of Nazareth, Jesus, son of Joseph, Rabbi, Son of God, King of Israel, Son of Man, Word, and it goes on. So you can find more than that, okay? So why is he doing that? Well, I think there's a very simple reason. He's trying to show you all the ways that people think about Jesus. And then through these encounters, through which the whole gospel is constructed, from one encounter after another, he's going to say, and what do you think? And then at the end of it, right at the end of chapter 20, he says, these things are written that you might believe, and believing might have life. So that's his point, that's his game plan. And the encounters show you the process of that game plan, the way it works out, okay? And here in chapter 1, he has something very important to do to start with, and that is to identify the relationship between Jesus and God, Jesus and the Old Testament, you know, the previous revelation of God, and Jesus and John the Baptist. Now you remember that there were lots of people who thought very, very highly of John the Baptist, and probably the way that we look at the history of the New Testament, we undervalue John the Baptist. But the truth is that in the first century there were people that we know, a group in Ephesus that not just admired him but followed his teaching. There were many people probably all around who didn't quite understand the relationship between John the Baptist and Jesus. And so he's very explicit about this. He says, there came a man who was sent from God, verse 6 in chapter 1. His name was John. He came as a witness to testify concerning that light, so that through him all men might believe. He himself was not the light, he came only as a witness to the light. So that's the first point. John the Baptist is a witness to the light. Do you remember that little piece where Jesus said he is the greatest of the Old Testament prophets? He's the point to which the Old Testament has been pointing, but of women no man was greater than John, but he's only a witness to the light that was coming. And then John that testifies, verse 15, concerning Jesus, he cries out saying, this is he of whom I said, he who comes after me has surpassed me because he was before me. Typical kind of John paradox, Johannine paradox. He was before me, he comes after me, he surpasses me. And then you have the comparison between Jesus and the Old Testament. And John is trying to sort of say which is the greater, what is Jesus' place in the revelation of God. And he makes it very, very clear and simple, verse 17, the law was given through Moses, grace and truth came through Jesus Christ. No one has ever seen God, but God, the one and only, who is at the Father's side, has made him known. And that word means revealed. It also means shone. Isn't that great? Revelation is something that shines. And so if you've seen Jesus, you have seen God as the Word made flesh and dwelling among us. He shines. He shines. He reveals what God is like. And then he goes on, 19, from verse 19. Okay, so what is the nature of this witness? What is John the Baptist's place in this? Do you remember this is very important in first century historical thinking. Now this is what John's testimony was when the Jews of Jerusalem sent priests and Levites. He did not fail to confess, but confessed freely when they asked him who he was. I am not the Christ. Are you Elijah? No. Are you the prophet? They expected a prophet. They expected a sort of mega prophet. Deuteronomy 18 verse 15. They expected somebody who was going to reveal God to them in the way that Moses did. Moses in Deuteronomy 18 said, there is one coming who will be like me, knowing God face to face. And he says, are you the prophet? He said, no. Finally he said, who are you? Give us an answer. And he said, in the words of Isaiah the prophet, I am the voice of one calling in the desert, make straight the way for the Lord. And of course, this means the coming of the sovereign God to Israel to rescue and ransom and heal the land and restore the Davidic kingship, restore all those things, the perfect priest, the perfect prophet, the perfect king. Well, I am the voice of one declaring the coming of the Lord. Isn't that incredible? Here's a prophecy that came out 800 years before. It's like Geoffrey Chaucer writing about you. There will come in Roscommon Island. Isn't that incredible? So this prophecy has come to pass in the witness of John the Baptist. And all these words about Jesus, all these words about the coming of the Lord are about to come true. And this is the encounter between God and us through his people. God speaking to Israel and also through Israel to the world. God's encounter with the world made manifest through the witness of John the Baptist. Well, who are you? No, I'm not that. I'm not that. No. I'm just a voice. I'm a voice speaking the word, and the word is clear. Listen to the word, follow its direction, and you will see. Well, what will you see? Well, we'll leave that for another time. But again, in chapter 1, the verb to see is really important. Count how many times they use it. He says, come and see. And that's the next encounter. God bless you.